gamers, do you know who our favorite guy is of all time? Bowser. Is he Lowser or is he Wowser? Let's take a look. By having a look at his castles, I am the inspector for this evening, and today I'm committing an audit on all 21, yes, there's 21, of his castles today. So let's get on to the G tier, or what I've labeled, this is just sad, man, goes to...
You told me I wasn't a clone.
You're not a clone.
And who is that?
A clone?
So even my goats have a bit of a moment where they're just kind of washed. When it comes to the GBA version of the SNES tracks, the thing that unfortunately got removed in all of them were the hazards. Now for tracks like Mario Circuit, it didn't really affect them too much. In Donut Plains, yeah, you missed the Monty mods, which I think was a very fun hazard, actually. They're missing, which makes those ones less compelling too, but I think Bowser Castle, the SNES Bowser Castles, definitely got the worst end of it. It's just a bunch of turns, and more turns, which in a game you've already played 20 tracks of just turns. Just turning is not really that compelling, unfortunately. I did try and rack my brain as hard as possible to come up with some positives. I came up with 2, which is, it's nice that they added an extra item box in some of them, so you can get 2 items per lap. No, that doesn't, what about, the fact that there's 50 coins, so you know exactly when you've collected all the coins in each level? Is that gonna work?
Bazinga.
No? Okay, well, that's all I've got, gamers. And I think no one's gonna complain when I put them all down here. Is that fair? Is that fair? I think it is. When you realize you're goat washed, can I get the Lightning McQueen image, please? Thank you, editor. But next we go on to the F tier, which I've called, get out! Give me your jacket, fuck off upstairs. What do you think is officially my worst Bowser Castle? GBA BC2. Oh my god, Alfonzo with his first guess. Guesses it completely right. Gamers, if you guessed GBA BC2, you are in fact correct. You get a gold medal. But it's not this one. This one isn't the worst one. This one's the second worst one. Do you know which one the worst one is? It's older brother. GBA BC2, the DS one. This one is just slightly worse than his original cousin. But they're both equally as shit, I would say. I don't even necessarily think it's GBA BC2's fault. The nature of how old Bowser Castle works kind of led it to a life of mediocrity. Bowser Castle 1 gets to get away with being simple because it's the first one. And then by the time you get to like 3 and in the GBA's case 4, you can have it, you know, you can all assume that the person playing knows what they're talking about. They've been around the block. But 2 is this odd middle child. And as somebody who is in fact the middle brother, trust me, I can relate. I can relate a lot, sadly.
Stop.
But I think this jump section is where it all starts to really fall apart. Yeah, the beginning bit has some interesting turns, but then having jumps like this in a pre-trick society, it's just not really that good, is it? Is this really your starring gimmick, these jumps here? If I was to put on my game design hat on, I would say they're not necessarily the worst kind of hazard, right? By the time you get to the Flower Cup, you're still trying to learn the controls somewhat. Having pits in the ground that are at least give you an opportunity to jump over them, potentially to help you get out the way, it's not the worst kind of game design. It really, really isn't. Even though it might not be the worst thing ever made, if it comes to Bowser Castles, it definitely is the worst one ever made. That's not even getting into the one that's even worse than that, which is the DS version. And there's one particular reason why I hate the DS version. There's one particular reason indeed. In the original, let's say for example, you get to a fire pit, right? You're like, oh, fuck, that's a fire pit. I don't want to be there right now. You can jump and hopefully maneuver yourself out the way. When you're jumping in the air, you still have complete horizontal mobility. What does the DS have? No. Once you're in the air, you are locked horizontally. So say, for example, you don't really narrow yourself out as best as you can, and you accidentally hit this jump panel. In the original, you have time to notice this jump panel is just going to send you into lava. It's not big enough for you to jump across. In the original, you have enough time to maneuver yourself to the left or the right. Since your movement is basically locked horizontally for some strange reason, if you do accidentally go into one of these jump pads when you weren't supposed to, you're fucked. The game's like, see you later, bitch. How'd you like lava? Fade to black, Lakitu sends you down, robs you of none of your coins because coins are not here yet. But either way, awful. In a pre-trick society, having jumps as your gimmick just isn't that fun. See for my other example, DS Wario Stadium. It gets the award of being the worst of what is otherwise a pretty solid bunch of tracks. I mean, you go there, and you can go there. Could you imagine an Excitebike style Bowser Castle? Now listen, Roo, okay, listen. I'm in my slander mode right now. Don't make me smile, okay? I'm angry. Don't make me happy, okay? You're gonna put a smile on my face in a minute. It was so much worse. They could have saved BC2 for 7. They should have. They should have put BC1 in this game, and then BC2 in 7, 100%. So it's bad because of actual physics? Yes, it is bad because of actual physics. I am a physicsman. That's what they call me. Loud as shittle. Guys, you're gonna have to really rack your brains to come up with a better slander name than that. Once we get out of the horribleness of the F tier, we go up to the D tier, as I've titled, what dingus came up with this, huh? What dingus? Who designed this contraption and nonsense? What do you think is in my D tier when it comes to Bowser's Castle? It's a bad tier list, there's no B at Bowser City. Technically, it's not, VAR, can you check if Neo Bowser City is a Bowser Castle? Thank you. He'll get back to me on that one. He'll get back to you. And I think here is where we have, does anyone want to take a guess? And the two that get the honor of being in this tier are GBA Bowser Castle 1 and SNES Bowser Castle 1. Both pretty much for the exact same reason, in that they're just kind of a beginner's Bowser Castle. Have they done anything really wrong? Not really. But again, when you're going up against some of the most stacked tracks in the series history, just being a simple introduction to how Bowser Castles are going to work, while it works well in the context of the game, doesn't really work in the context of interesting me in a Bowser's Castle. They have some simple enough thwomps, simple enough turns, a couple of jumps with the fire bars in the case of the GBA version, and in this one, you have some game design elements that I really like, but I would say are recognized better in the later Bowser Castles in the same game. One example being the thwomps in Bowser Castles in all the SNES tracks, which is, the thwomps are not active in lap 1. They are there for you to see where the hazards are going to be, and then in lap 2, that's when they become active, and that's when you really have to pay attention for them. And with these speed pads on the side, they kind of tempt you into, are you going to take a speed boost and try and get past the thwomps, or are you going to not take a speed boost so you can maneuver around them a lot easier? I like that sort of risk-reward sort of thing, but it makes better use of it in the later Bowser Castles, which is why I'm not giving it too much credit for that here. Not done anything wrong, so I'm so sorry, little ones. I really am. You haven't really done too much to earn the higher slots, I would say. As some of you guys said, like, Baby's first castle, Bowser Jr.'s castle, Nap Time castle. There isn't really too much to say about these game design-wise, and I would put it in the D tier, I would say. But then we get in to the C tier, and oh, this is where I'm going to make some enemies today. I can't wait for it. Oh, I'm ready to smoke liberal tears, because we get into the C tier, which is not bad. I don't like what you've done with the place in particular, and I would say the bottom of the C tier belongs to a Bowser Castle some of you guys might know and love. Oh, it's happening, gamers. Make your predictions. N64, MK7, 64. A bunch of you guys said 64. Oh my. Oh, la. You guys aren't ready for this. I'm gonna give it to DS Bowser's Castle. Hey. Don't get me wrong. The Spinamajig, I like it a lot. Now you have the opportunity to tell me, what the else does this Bowser Castle do? And while you're thinking of your totally Ben Shapiro-style debate take, I will give you mine, which is, when you analyze the track as the rest of it, it really isn't that compelling, if I'm being honest with you. This shortcut here, when you get to this spot here, there's arrows showing you that you have to go to this spot, but if you're a bit of a DS Andy, you can go completely all the way around here to take a nice cheeky shortcut. Now, the video kind of sells me up the river here, but from my hundreds of hours of playing DS Bowser Castle, and the couple of times I played it in preparation for this stream, at no point did this firebar actually hit me. This is actually a rare instance where I didn't actually expect the guy to actually get hit. The thwomp and the firebar are supposed to be a deterrent from taking the shortcuts. Hey, you take the shorter path, but you risk taking damage, or do you go around just slower but safer? I love that sort of option in my game design, but the option isn't really an option when there's a objectively better path. And I think for that, the game design is lacking, and I have to give it a few points knocked down for that. The Spinamajig, really cool. When you do go down to the bottom bit, it really does do a walk of shame. It really is like, oh man, it sucks. Getting hit on this, the tension of getting hit on this, the punishment when you get knocked down, I love that. But then again, you get to the next section, which, this section could have worked very well with tricks. It could be fantastic with tricks, but you're just kind of jumping from platform to platform, which isn't particularly hard. And then you get a handful of turns, and that's just kind of it. Other than the Spinamajig, which I'll give it its flowers for, it's got utterly nothing. Absolutely Nothing. And the worst part is, I ranked this in the A tier on my DS tier list, and when I saw that, I'm just like, I must have been smoking something. I really must have been, because as far as I'm concerned, this track's got nothing. It's just got nothing, I tell you what. The track stays to a consistent theme. Mechanics, it stays to the entire time with moving platforms and spinning poles, etc. That is true, but from a game design perspective, I just don't find it that compelling. The spin-a-majig, yes. These moving platforms, not really. And the rotating thing in the beginning, not really neither. It does stick to a theme, you are correct, and I do give it some points for that. But it doesn't do enough to win me Sir Musty over. So it holds up the spot at the bottom of C tier. So what comes next, gamers? Make your predictions. What do you think comes next in Sir Musty's House of Castles? Prediction time over. So if you guessed GBA Bowser Castle, the Wii version, give yourself a round of applause. Listen, I love the way Mario Kart Wii plays, but Lord have mercy. In a pre-Mario Kart 7 society, where they took tracks and like gave them glow-ups as need be, go back to a Mario Kart game where they just kind of slapped the retros on and called it a day, it didn't really translate that well if you ask me personally. I think even playing this back in the day on the Wii, and playing this again to prepare for this is the one time where I played a Bowser's Castle where I'm just like, brother, why do you take so long? What's going on here? You're just a whole lot of nothing. I got something to be at 2 o'clock, brother. What are you doing? What are you doing? It's less that this Bowser Castle is bad, but more, it wasn't really translated too well, I would say. The road is a bit too wide. The blues are a bit too, like, faded. It just doesn't really work too well. And I'll explain what works in the original better once we get to that. But I would say this track was just a simple mistranslation. It doesn't really spark any joy when I play this one. I feel like I'm just playing a Bowser's Castle. And you never really want to feel like you're playing a Bowser's Castle. Bowser Castle does two things, one of two things, very, very well, which is a fine obstacle course or fantastic spectacle. Is this a fine obstacle course? I mean,
I guess, maybe.
Is this also got the spectacle? No. Yeah, I think Bowser Dude just sums it up, right? Like, it keeps going on, I'm tired after lap 2. Yeah, this is one of the few instances where, like, I played a track and I'm like, I'm bored of you already, bro. GBA Bowser Castle is one of the few tracks that looks ugly. I think Wii in general just looked kind of ugly, to be honest. It plays like a dream, but Lord have mercy, it's not a looker. It's all personality, no look, honestly. Bag over its head type B, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, like even Namsu said, like, oh, you can low trick the jump section, which I find skillful. You basically just spoke French to me, if I'm being honest. You spoke French to me, which is fine. If that's the level you're playing Wii at, and you like it for different reasons, that's absolutely fine. I love that. I love that for you. And I'm not being sarcastic when I say that. It sounds like I am, but I'm not. I genuinely do. If you're asking me, the casual guy who played it as a kid for thousands of hours, and who played it a couple times just now, it's the definition of just okay. It's just okay, gamers. It's okay. And as a result, you can comfortably sit just above the NES Bowser Castle. What comes next? What comes next, gamers? Enter your predictions now. If, ladies and gentlemen, you guessed GBA BC1, the MK7 version. Well done, gamers. You'd win a prize, which is... The prize is you're here, and isn't that reward enough? As for GBA BC1 MK7, Jesus, try and say that 3 times fast. It basically does everything the OG does, but I think it's just... It plays a little better. Mainly because the ramp section at the end was made to be speed pads, so this section just flows a lot faster, and I quite like that. And in the second lap, you got a lovely glider section, which doesn't do much, no, but I like gliding and then going up to the speed ramp and just touching with the edge of my wheels so I can still fly, and then maybe take that shortcut on the very side there. It's just kind of fun. It just adds a little bit more to it, which makes me go, you know what? I kind of like you. I kind of like you a lot, I do. Do I like you enough to put you higher than C? Not particularly. It's still just in service of what is ultimately a very simple Bowser Castle, so I can't put in all good conscience put it higher than C. But if you were to click this on an online race, I'm not upset. I'm not happy, but I'm not upset, you know, which is exactly where it belongs, in the C tier. I think Bowser Castle 3 in Mario Kart Wii's flaws is that it just goes on for a bit too long. The MK7 version of GBA BC1, you could argue is maybe a bit too short, but I'd rather a track under Status Welcome and make me want a bit more than a track over Status Welcome and me just looking at the watch for when it ends. So that's why I put it slightly higher than GBA Bowser Castle 3 MKW. God, this is a nightmare of acronyms, isn't it? Jesus. What do you guys think? What do you think, my wonderful live chat? What do you think? Underrated. Oh, guys, he said the word. He said underrated. I don't agree. I think it's correctly rated in that it's just okay. So gamers, now it's time for your favorite part again. Prediction time. Prediction time is now closed. If you guessed, I am 100% convinced of my conviction in saying that Mario Kart 7's Bowser Castle is wholly the definition of just okay. Give me a sec. Smart Musty's gonna. It's not so Musty anymore. I'm definitely gonna have to get out the glasses to convince all the Mario Kart 7 Andes of this one. Okay, when you do a play-by-play of this track, tell me the parts where you're having fun, actively having fun. I would say the beginning glider section, can't go wrong with a glider. The gliding physics are kind of fun in this game. And then you kind of get this split path nonsense where I'm just kind of like, okay, sure. This drift is kind of fun, where you can drift around here and then trick off this one as you're drifting. He does it, yeah, that's kind of all right. And then you get this shortcut on the left, which is like, if there's one type of shortcut I don't like, it's the shortcuts that don't really have enough risk to them, if that makes sense. This shortcut's just, you don't need a mushroom for this one, it's just kind of there. And it's just like, okay, I'm always going to take that path now. Does that make sense? And then you get the spinner-majig, which is just a knockoff Mario Kart DS one. What are you doing, lad? I think this is not even a spinner-majig. This is just a washing machine. Jeez, like, I'll put my clothes in there, but Buzz actually left this washing machine open. And then you get the underwater section, which, while it is a cool visual, I do like it. Am I actively having fun on this section? Not really, if I'm being honest. It's just kind of, it looks... Callum Dread's having a hard time. He's having a tough time here. He really is. And then not to mention also, I don't know if you guys just noticed, it's like half of this track not even in Bowser Castle? Really? Unreal. I would say the only part of this track where like I'm like, do you know what? That was kind of cool. Is this shortcut here. If you drive off this ramp with a mushroom, you can just nail the trick there. 7 has some really cool shortcuts. I think Woohoo Island Loop has some cool shortcuts with mushrooms and tricking as well. This was a pretty cool shortcut here. I will give it that. He thought he could take it, but then realized he didn't have a mushroom. In the context of the game it's in, I don't even think it's that good neither. And in this one, it's just kind of okay. Is this your go, guys? Is this your go? I kind of feel, get the feel that Bowser Castle, where it's been abandoned for decades, unlike the one in 64, where it's abandoned but well kept in tidiness. I've never actually thought about it that way, especially with that, what's it, the plumbing being weird and most of the track not even being in the castle. I kind of get that. That's actually quite true. I like the way you've looked at this. Does it really change my opinion on racing on it though? Not particularly. Callum's having a tough time. He's having a tough time. Jesus. Poor Callum over here. He really is dreading playing this stage. Am I right? Whee! I agree with pretty much everything. Well, if the check mark agreed with me, then I must be correct. My opinion is correct. I am correct. Sir Musty is correct. Conform to Sir Mustyism. He rued the day he played. Shut the fuck. And I've done reading your unconvincing arguments, and I'll put this one in the not bad. We're going from the C tier of not bad but to the B tier of, well now, Bowser. Okay. I don't know about you, big man, but if you're gonna kidnap me, this is a bit more like it. I'm a bougie bitch after all. Gamers, make your predictions. What just edges out Behave into the B tier. Predictions are now closed. Gamers, if you guessed the one, the only, the one that's gonna make everyone go, what the hell? If you guessed SNES Bowser Castle 2, you are right on the money. Sorry, Miro, it's not gonna hold out to S tier, but it does make my B tier. I really love this. I have always advocated for SNES BC2, so you can't even say I'm just trying to get in the video. You can't even say I'm just trying to be unique. I've always advocated for SNES BC2. I love SNES BC2. I think it does everything a Bowser Castle should do. The glasses are going back on. You see, British accent plus glasses means you should take me more seriously. So gamers, allow me with my soft-spoken received pronunciation. Let me explain to you why I think SNES Bowser Castle 2 is pretty much a solid time, I would say. I kind of alluded to this when I talked about SNES BC1, and I think it does what SNES BC1 it does in terms of the thwomps and the speed boosts that I really, really enjoy. As always, they do show you where the thwomps are going to be before the next lap starts, which is perfect, because it gives you the perfect chance to kind of scout them out. But then when you get to lap 2, I love where all of these thwomps are positioned. I think they're positioned just perfectly to keep you enough on your toes without being too difficult. Like this section here, again, they give you enough of a range to hit the bumper here or to like slalom around without being too difficult, I would say. And then you get to the next section, which again, if you're confident and want to take the turn as closely to the edge as possible, you can risk the thwomps. If you don't fancy it, if you're feeling a bit chicken, you can go round the outside, round the outside, round the outside. They do the same thing here. Again, if you take this turn, as this person is going to show us, if you don't drift properly, and you take this turn a bit wider than you should, then guess what, motherfucker? You haven't mastered the controls yet. You're a bum. You're living in the slums. You're living in the ghetto, buddy. Because guess what? Now you have to contend with the thwomps, which this guy gets very lucky. Are they positioned anywhere where they're going to be ball crunching hard? No. But if you haven't mastered the controls yet, this one is really going to start showing you that, hey, motherfucker, this is Super Mario Kart now, okay? You got to really put the super in Super Mario Kart. And I love that sort of design. And then the ending bits here, again, are they placed anywhere ball crunching? No. Enough to keep you on your toes, though. Look at that. Look at that gap. It looks small. It is a generous gap relative to its placement, but it's still a bit of a tricky one, and then one more at the end to really keep you on your toes. The thwomps in old Mario Kart cannot go understated. There's another track that does good thwomps as well, which I'll get onto later. But the thwomps in this track cannot be understated. And that's not even talking about the feather shortcut. I did the feather shortcut so many times, and I can tell you, it is bull-crunchingly hard to pull this off. But when you do, you feel like a god. Just like with every feather shortcut. And also, just to finally add, I think the older Mario Kart games are at their best when they make you do 90-degree turns. Not hairpin turns. I think hairpin turns with this engine, a bit much. But when the game makes you do 90-degree turns with as compelling a setup as this track does with the thwomps and what have you, I think it can make for what is really, if you play it and you actually try to play it properly, a really solid track, honestly. This might be a meme. You guys might all hate it, but see, look, hey, hang on, you see that? He doesn't know how to drift. Mr. Lots of Spaghetti. He hasn't taken his drift lessons, so he had to contend with the thwomps. And what did he get? He got thwomp. I gave you the essay. All right, what have you got to say to me? Feather shortcuts shouldn't be a dead end. They absolutely should be a dead end. If you're brave enough to go to the dead end with a flower, you have to make sure you hit that. Otherwise, you can just go home. All right, I like it. This is the era Mario Kart well and truly was hard, and I like it. Counterpoint, if you ever figured out it's a dead end, but a dead end the first time, that's a skill issue. Yeah, like, is it, oh, let me take the first left-hand turns. What is a dead end? I can't believe this. This is such poorly designed. Driving next lap, oh, let me take the first left-hand turn. What is a dead end? What no object permanence does to a motherfucker. Hey, once you realize once, it's over. You kind of know now. If you're in front of someone and you see them take that first left-hand turn, you know they're either going to be way off in first place because they were brave enough to take it, or they're going to be in 7th place now. And guess what? Risk, reward. Beautiful. So it's going to proudly sit in the B tier. Cry harder, liberals. I just stood up in court for SMK BC2. What is going to be slightly higher than that, gamers? Prediction time! Voting is now closed. Gamers, if you said SMK BC3, give yourself a pat on the back. This is the one where even you, Mr. Oh, no object permanence. Is it the first left turn or is it the second left-hand turn? I don't remember anymore. Even you have to admit, this is actually a pretty solid Bowser Castle. For the reasons that I'm sure you've heard plenty of times, but it bears reiterating. The thwomps again, second lap thwomps, they show you where they're going to be on the first lap, so they can be a ball-crunching threat in this lap. Another thread the needle one, relatively early one. And then the multiple paths are just a really fun way of design. You just pick a path. It's just kind of fun. It's just kind of neat to pick your own path. But the paths also have a game design quirk to them, which I really, really like. You could just take the most left-hand path here and end up on the shortest path. But if you're someone who hasn't really mastered the drifting and wants a bit more of a wider turning circle, you may opt to take the middle or the farthest most path, so you can just do a 90-degree turn into another one instead of one big, like, kind of U-turn. Does that make sense? So even game design-wise, they really do have a purpose, each of the parts, sorry. They also have a purpose in the items. In this game, if you guys weren't familiar, once you hit an item box, it's now eliminated for the rest of the game. This character cannot drive into that item again. It's gone now. Since each path has its own item, you can't simply take the same path over and over if you want an item. So if you're trying to catch up to first place, you're going to want to take a different path. That's for sure. This section here, I absolutely adore. BC2 did this, but I think it did it to a weaker extent, to the point where I didn't even mention it. But this one, again, if you take the turn as inwards as possible, you get to go on a speed pad. But even if you could, there might be a reason why you won't want to. And that's because there's some thwomps up here, and they almost block the entire... Look at that. These thwomps can get really brutal with their timing. So you can take the speed boost and risk just naturally making under the thwomps. Or if you want to take your time and make sure you position yourself perfectly to get around them, you can also do that too. A little bit of risk reward. I like that sort of thing. Overall, just a well-designed track, even to the point where the Super Mario Kart haters have to give it to SNES BC3. What do you guys have to add? Let's see. I'm one of SMK's 5 fans of BC3 is genuinely good. Yes, it was. I'm a big fan of this too. I wasn't expecting to like this when I played SMK for the first time, but I really like this track. Even in its original base game, I still think this is a really solid time. And remember, as I said, I think Super Mario Kart is at its best when you're not doing hairpin turns, but you're doing like these kinds of turns. And what does this track have a lot of? It has a lot of those kinds of turns, doesn't it? I like it for that. It really makes this game shine. It really, really does. So, SNES BC3, you can proudly join your younger brother or older brother, depends, in the B tier, I would say. So what comes next, game, is my favorite time of the stream, prediction time. Prediction time is now closed. If you guessed the Wii version of N64 Bowser Castle, give yourself a pat on the back. This one is pretty okay, I would say. Pretty good, even. That's why it's in the B tier. It's pretty good. There are better Bowser Castles. I think this one's pretty good. I think this one definitely suffers a bit from the same problem that BC3 GBA Mario Kart Wii also does. God, these acronyms fucking suck. They really do. But this one suffers from the same problem as that, where I'm playing the track and I'm just kind of like, got somewhere to be, brother. Got somewhere to be. Got to pick up the kids at 3 o'clock. Definitely has a bit of that, which I'm not a fan of. But in there, but again, Thwomps. My lord, old Mario Kart and Thwomps. Can you think of a better duo? I love these Thwomps. These Thwomps get so cheeky with it. They really do. They just wait. They just wait. They just wait for you. They just wait. And like, hey, motherfucker. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? Hey. Even these 3 at the end would be enough of a hazard. But the game's like, nah, mate. Do you like Thwomps? Do you like Thwomps? They're like, ooh, they just snipe you. They just snipe you. They really do. I think in the context of Mario Kart Wii, it's the very last track in the entire retro selection, and there's a Mario Kart Wii Bowser Castle that does it better as far as I'm concerned. So in the context of Mario Kart Wii, I think this Bowser Castle is not that good. I just don't think this track was a good translation for what Mario Kart Wii is trying to be. In the original, which I'm going to elaborate on further, but I think this track fits far better in 64's game engine than it does in the Wii. And I think it mainly has to do with the types of turns you end up doing in this track. In the N64, when the controls are so slippery, so tight, so harsh, this track is a genuinely good obstacle course. In this game, where the controls are really, really tight and the turns aren't really as harsh, as a result making the track a lot less compelling, it just feels like you're more so going through the motions in this version compared to the N64 version, which was genuinely a really tough obstacle course. And I think as a result, while the N64 OG version will rank a bit higher, as you'll see shortly, this version, I think, was a remake not really done too well. And I think it's a symptom of Mario Kart Wii, really. I think Mario Kart Wii just took a bunch of tracks, overscaled them a bit, and slapped them in the game. For some of them, it worked very well, like Delfino Square, for example. But I think with tracks like this, it wasn't done atrociously, but I think it just isn't nearly as compelling. Like, if you play the original and then play this side by side, I think you'll understand what I mean. This one just isn't as compelling. Still solid, though. Still solid. But still, overall, I don't mind this one. I think I'd say, hey, well now. Can we get Free Marty in the chat, please? I still don't know why he's arrested. Free my boy, if I do say so. After we're done freeing Marty, we're going to get into the A tier, as I've lovingly titled, Hey Bowser, I like what you done with the place, bro. I like what you done with the place. Now this is more like it. You'll get a little better before, but now I feel like a bougie ass bitch, and this is exactly what I came here for. So gamers, what do you think? How many are there here? There are 2 tracks in the A tier of Bowser Castles. Can you take a guess as to what they are? Prediction time, go. Prediction time is now closed. If you guessed the OG version of Bowser Castle 3, give yourselves a pat on the back. Oh, just look at that blue. Can we just admire that blue for a second? That's a nice, big Boris blue. You know what I'm saying? A Boris Johnson kind of blue. You know? Some of you guys think that when I say Boris, I mean Albert Boris. I'm referring to Boris Johnson in that infamous clip where he said blue, which one of the editors will jump scare in some point in this video, so be careful about that. Anyway, Bowser Castle 3 is a track in the context of the game that it's in. Is really, really, really good. If you were to ask me what's something that Bowser Castles do really, really well, I would say it's being a really compelling obstacle course. And I think Bowser Castle 3 has that in spades without stepping on Bowser Castle 4's shoes. Because remember, this is the second to last Bowser Castle. So while it can be hard, it can't be too hard. And I feel like this nails that absolutely perfectly. I just like how this track really is a skill check for you. As the bottom of Star Cup in its base game, it really is a skill check as to how good you are as a whole in Super Circuit. So as you can see from the beginning, you even notice this from the beginning, the track just starts off really, really narrow. And then again, you've got some thwomps here, which are they off to the side? Sure. But it really tests your ability to stay in the middle. Even this person here, he takes the drift wide, hasn't quite mastered the control, so as a result, he has to contend with the thwomp. Does he get hit? He just about manages to avoid. So again, this really is a skill check. The turns, they're harsh enough, and the thwomps are just placed off on the sides enough, and the fire bars, again, off to the side. They really want you to stay in the middle. They really want to make sure you've mastered the controls if you're going to play this Bowser Castle. And I think it does a very good job of that while having this lovely blue color palette. And I think there's nothing that really accentuates this more than the ending. Like, again, you get this ending bit where the road narrows even more. And then the final turn, it might just be a straightaway, but look at this. Oh, look how narrow this road is. Since I played Link Battle in school with my friends way back in the day, way back in the dinosaur years of the 2000s, if you get hit by a shell on this section here, the game like violently shoves you to the left or right, which is just enough where you're more likely to completely get knocked off the stage. It's got a little bit of that spin-a-magic factor where you really have to be on your toes on this final straightaway. And then, of course, the best part, which is really the best part. Ignore everything I said. The reason it's an A tier, Karmic. Everyone say hello, Karmic. Everyone say hello to Karmic. Say hello. There you go, Karmic. Thank you. You should have been back in the Wii version, which is why I ranked the Wii version that lowly. GBA, the OG BC3 from Super Circuit. You can sit your lovely, beautiful blue arse into the A tier, I would say. So, I've got one other spot in the A tier. Gamers, prediction time is on once more. Prediction time is closed. If you said GBA, Bowser Castle 4, then you've made it into the big time. Then you've made it into the big time, gamers. But Bowser Castle 4 essentially does everything Bowser Castle 3 does, but turns the dial up to like 100. I love everything this Bowser Castle does. This is the cutoff between baby Bowser Castles and Bowser's Castle. Everything about this track is designed to really make sure you have mastered every single bit of the controls Super Circuit has thrown ahead of you. So let's go section by section here, shall we? So you get this opening section, nothing too great. You get the lava pools from GBA BC2, but this time they don't have the jumps. So instead of having to jump away, having an option to jump away once you land on them, if you touch these lava puddles for even a frame, you are finished. You are gone. You are cooked. And even if you try and hop over them skillfully, which you can do, I've done it plenty of times, the Podo Boos might just jump up and ruin your game somewhat. They might ruin your game. Again, this bit is another skill check. Over here, you can see a speed boost right at the end there. If you're driving without drifting like this person's doing here, that speed boost is probably going to be a bit out of your reach. But if you manage to drift into that speed boost, you can really catch a nice speed boost there. Here's another section here where it really checks your skill once more. You can just go around the outside here, but if you want to contend with the early turn, you really have to like quickly weave back into the track. Do you see that? It is actually a lot tougher than it looks. It's a lot tougher than it looks. You really have to... You see that? That's really tough. That is really, really, really tough. To master that really shows your mastery of this game as a whole. And then you get probably some of the most unpredictable hazards in the entire series. They don't even have a turning animation. They don't have a timer on them. They just turn. These Mecha Koopas just turn whenever they want to. You can't tell them what they want. They're strong, independent Mecha Koopas who don't need no man. And they will mess you up. Even though the section is really short, and it should have been longer if you ask me. You better be careful with those. And then those thwomps at the end, I don't know if you quickly saw it though. They actually move. These thwomps actually move. As you can see, this one stomped here. He's moving to another position. So these thwomps, even though you might be able to avoid them on the first lap, they might trick you on the second or third lap. So you just never know. All around, I just really, really love this Bowser Castle. An excellent showing from Bowser. And also, I don't know what it was, but this background here as a kid always intrigued me. Like, it's not got this castle background like the others did. Like, at least in the third one, you could see that you were outside Bowser's castle during a lovely blue thunderstorm. In this one, where you're in like a mechanical section. Like, where even are you? Where even are you right now? It really invokes this weird haunting feeling, I would say. Like you're in Bowser Reactor Core or something? It feels so much stranger than any other Bowser Castle, I would say. Although there is one that gives off a little bit of atmosphere that I like a lot more. But we'll get to that in a sec. What do you guys think? Bowsenheim? Bowser's nuclear power plant. Is Homer working back there, or has he got the day off today? It explodes in tour, which is funny. Does it actually? That's really funny. So GBA BC4, you can lovingly take your spot on the top of A tier. And then you get on to the final 5. These are the goats of Bowser's Castle. These are the 5. My elite 5. My gruesome 5-some. So gamers, who is going to be the first elite 5 member? I'm seeing N64s, I'm seeing 64. Love to see Wii, N64, GCN, gotta be 64 now, right? Well, Roo is certainly not gonna rue the day, as the low S tier entry is gonna be N64 Bowser Castle, the OG. It's gonna be my first S tier spot, or the lowest in the S tier, should I actually say. I'm gonna steal a word from our Lord and Savior, Nintendo Land, when we watched his tier list video. This Bowser Castle has vibes. It's really giving... It's giving... Vibes. But instead of just saying vibes and calling it a day like that fucking hack fraud did, I'm gonna actually explain to you what I actually mean when I say vibes. Which is, there's something about early 3D video games that just give off this really, like, uncanny vibe. Even right off the beginning, right? In loads of Bowser Castles, you've seen, like, really compelling, really cool backgrounds. Where the fuck even are you? There's just a dark blue sky that fades into black. Where are we right now? I don't know where we are. Do you know where we are? Like, yeah, back rooms. That's probably the best way to... That's probably the, like, the zoomer comparison. I was gonna make a boomer comparison, but the zoomer comparison would be like backroom shit, yes. If I was gonna make a boomer comparison, I would say, like, early 3D era like consoles or like the N64 and like the PS1, they had to contend with like 3D because that was the new wave, right? But they really had to save as much memory where they could. So tracks like Bowser Castle, which could have had like a really compelling, like, you know, desolate forest background or like a haunting mountain side background or just even a lava caked background. In this track, because they had to save time and money, they had to like make it so that it really isn't any background, which, just look at it, just having no background really works. Really works. Seymour, where's the house? Literally, I just want to clarify, Alfonzo, let the record show, I actually wrote this in my notes, Alfonzo, okay? I didn't steal this off of you, but let the record show. I think the best example I can say of the PS1 era would be Silent Hill 2. If you guys never played the game was just caked in fog. Now, the fog added a lot of atmosphere, a lot of haunt, a lot of intrigue, a lot of, where the fuck am I right now? But it was mainly to save memory, really, if you think about it. I think the devs were just like, you know, we need the fog to save memory. But in actuality, it added to a really haunting experience. And I think this one kind of doesn't invoke this exact same feeling, but definitely invokes that same sort of vibe. Do you get what I mean? So when I say it gives off haunting vibes, I hope I haven't made like Nintendo Land and just said vibes and called it a day. I hope I've done a good job adequately explaining to you. And I'm just talking about the vibe, but the music also adds to this too. I haven't really mentioned music because most of the music in Bowser's Castle tends to be pretty solid, except for the DS version of GBA Bowser Castle, and I think there's two others, but whatever. So sell you on this haunting atmosphere. This music is phenomenal. I've always said that. I don't think it works well as Mario Kart music, but just like listen to it for a second, you know? And we haven't even started talking about the racetrack yet, have we? I've talked about everything but the racetrack. So let's go section by section, shall we? If the two N64 Andys in the chat can help me, can this Bowser actually hit you? Does it have a hurt box? I've never tested it. It'd be interesting if it did. To add to the haunting vibe of this all. These thwomps, look, just look at them. Just look at them. They're not even there, guys. They're not even there. And then look where they are. They just phase in out of nowhere. Could you chalk that up to N64 memory limitations? No. I'm going to chalk that up to the haunting vibe of this track. Again, a very contentious hazard to avoid, along with these three thwomps here. Look at that, honestly. And in these turns, as you can see from this, but I deliberately chose this person playing it. At this point, at the end of Star Cup, if you haven't mastered the controls, it's not going to hurt you too much. You're really going to be punished in terms of your potential maximum speed if you haven't mastered these turns. These turns are way too easy in the Wii version because of how tight the controls are in that game. With how slippery the N64's controls are. Just these turns are just like, to master each of these turns, it's like an achievement in and of themselves. They really are. Like, I don't even blame this person for not being able to take them that well or slipping on bananas or anything, because I don't think any of us could do any better, like, well and truly. And then you get this garden section, which, again, it adds to that, you know, Silent Hill 2 backrooms vibe. It's like, why has Bowser got a back garden here? What's going on here? What's going on here, you know? Like, it doesn't have a back garden in any other Bowser Castle except this one, adding to the very strange vibe that this one gives off. So, I think to look at and to feel, I think this track is phenomenal. And I think to play, it's a very compelling obstacle course too. I don't think this deserves anything less, I would say. I don't think this deserves anything less than an S tier. I really, really do. This course has it all. Creepy atmosphere, difficult hazards, tricky turns, and murdy. It's at the standards for all that came after it. And it's my favorite course in 64. I would say, I think I put it as like one of the only 4 good tracks in this game. I think along like with Royal Raceway, Yoshi Valley. I don't remember the others I put in there, but I put it alongside the good ones. I really, really did. It's too good, but it's just a tad bit long. I would agree with you. I would. It is kind of long. But in the context of the game that it's in, I don't think that's the worst thing, because I think a lot of N64 tracks are just kind of long. That's just kind of the vibe they were going for in this game. I think the Wii's Bowser Castle 3 Super Circuit goes on for a bit too long, but like that's a bit of an outlier. Does that make sense? In this one lasts long, but like I think in this game they all just kind of lasted long, didn't they? That's just kind of how they all were in this game. At least it's not N64 Warrior Stadium. At least there wasn't that. But anyway, I would say this definitely deserves its spot in the low S. 100%. Some of you guys are saying I'm trying to get in the video. Some of you guys are trying to say I'm having an Arlo moment. That's what I got to say to you again. That's what I'm flipping off the haters. The haters in shambles. But anyway, what's going to be the next one, gamers? What is going to be the next one? There's 3 Bowser Castles here that are kind of like similar-ish to each other. So let's talk about all 3 of them first, okay? Let's talk about the troublesome trio. Let's talk about Bowser Castle Double Dash, Bowser Castle Wii, and Bowser Castle 8 Deluxe. I kind of want to talk about all 3 of these kind of around the same time. Because I think this is definitely where we get into the eras of Bowser Castle, where they're kind of going for a bit of spectacle, right? Especially with the giant Bowser statue thing, right? I think if there's something that all 3 of these Bowser Castles all do very, very well, is I don't think there's any one particular section in each of them that are boring. There might be some that are less compelling than others, but I don't think at any point in these 3 Bowser Castles are you actively bored as a player. So let's go by this one. Again, you got the thwomps here, which really narrow your path. If you haven't mastered the controls at this point, late Special Cup, you're really gonna have a hard time. And again, I do really like the fact that if you bump into a thwomp, it doesn't like just stop you dead like the N64 version. I do like the fact that the game's a little bit more generous. They let you pass, but obviously you spin out. A little more fair, I would say. And then you get this fireball section, which I think serves 2 real purposes. One thing I really like is that you can see like the floor slightly darkened there. So even though they almost feel quite random in the way they're gonna go, if you've played this track enough, you can see where the darkened floors are, and you can kind of try and avoid those bits more so. And they're usually in the middle. So again, with the slippery controls of what this game has, contending with the edges, it might seem easy in a modern Mario Kart, but in this game, it's actually tougher than it looks, I would say. So you get past this section, you do a nice little U-bend, you know, a nice little Bangkok Rush car park U-drift, which this person doesn't seem to do. And then you get this section here. I do kind of like it. Again, do you go around to avoid contending with the firebar, or do you carefully weave in between its flames? A lot tougher than it looks. Another cool section there. You get a couple of simple turns here to keep you on your toes, to really make sure you've mastered the drifting. Again, the ways about old Mario Kart, they just had a lot of charm. Look at the arrows. They're just so angry at you. They're like, the arrows don't even want you here. They don't even want you here, guys. Bowser just wants you gone. Like, he invited you to his castle. He's like, I'm gonna make you uncomfortable while you're here. That's the vibe it gives. He's like, oof. Okay, leave me alone, boss. Leave me alone. Okay, leave me alone. And then after you've done a couple of turns, you enter the castle proper. Of a couple of potentially tricky turns, if you haven't mastered the controls yet. This Bowser goes really understated, but I really like this Bowser. Firstly, look at the backgrounds. I love the haunted mountains. It gives me like Broken Pier vibes. You know, the background of Broken Pier and GBA. It really gives me those vibes, the V word. And this Bowser goes really understated. Is it as spectacular or as like defining as the Wii or 8 one? No, but I think it offers just enough of intrigue to keep you on your toes. I would compare it to the pinballs from Waluigi Pinball. Are you going to get hit by the pinballs that often? Not really. If the one time where you keep them out of your mind, that's the time where they're going to blindside you. So it's the same with this hazard. Is it really going to be, is it really that tricky to avoid? More often than not, not particularly. It's more so the turns. I would like the fact that you have to contend with the giant Bowser, not only as you're going towards it, but as you're driving away, you can see the fireballs are still active. You know, you still have to, so they serve 2 purposes there, which I really, really like. So all around, one more left-hand turn, and you're back into the beginning. Tell me at which point, like, are you actively bored when you're playing this track? There isn't a single point in this. I think the same can be said with the next Bowser Castle as well, or the Wii version too. I think the Wii version, again, I think it starts off on a lot more of a bombastic note with the big jump into Bowser's castle himself. If the GameCube one felt like a souped-up version of N64, this was like a souped-up version of the GameCube one. It really does. So again, you get this wiggly bit again. Instead of the thwomp section from the original, you get like a wiggly bit to do some tricks, really like emphasizing the trick mechanic of this game. Oh my god, this Donkey Kong really got messed up there, didn't he? Sheesh. Sheesh. And the old Bowser statue of old is replaced by this one. Now, even though this one is quite neat, I would say of the 3 statue sections, I would say this one, while it does look spectacular and it feels the spectacle factor that Bowser Castles love to do in the modern day, this one's probably the least compelling. It does lead to one of the coolest things you can do, which is you trick on this one. Is this the first thing they're gonna do? You trick on this one, and then like you go across to the other one, or maybe you take the middle path. I don't actually do the middle path, but like, you trick on one, or maybe you trick on the same side, or go on across. That's kind of of cool, but let's be honest here. How often do you actually get hit by this giant fireball? Not really, do you? At least in the GCN one, you have to keep your eye on the ball there when it comes to the Bowser statue. With this one, not really. At least even with this one, even with this statue, you have to keep your eye on it somewhat. It's not going to hurt you that often. You still have to keep your eye on. With this one, you never really have to keep your eye out because you can like perfectly avoid it. Like, right, you can jump here, and then usually what I do is I usually just jump up here like this. I just go up there, and then I just go up again instead of going across or in the middle. I don't really take the middle path that often. I don't think many people do, to be honest. So it's not really something I have to contend with. So even though I do like it as a set piece, it's not really that compelling as a hazard, I would say. And then you get this bit here, which is quite, again, the simple risk-reward section here. You can either take the graded path here. You risk the fire pillars hitting you, but it's the most inward path you can possibly take. A simple risk-reward section. I do like me a couple of thumps to keep you on your toes once more. Bit of a spinny fire bar at the end, and I really like this ending bit with the fire geysers. I kind of like them. I kind of like them. The idea of having to go near a hazard to get the best trick opportunity you possibly can is something that's just really neat. You want to get close to them so you can bump off them to take a trick, but not so far where you don't want to get that trick because you don't want someone passing by you if they did take the trick, you know? And then we get on to H Bowser Castle. More of the same. Is there any active section where you're bored? Not really. A fire bar, a mace, and another fire bar, and then big Bowser statue. It's all very fast-paced and bombastic. This one goes for spectacle in the best way it possibly can. It just keeps you going from section. The rockfall section, again, is it a hazard that's going to actively hit you a lot of the time? No. You still have to keep your eyes peeled. You really, really do. And the second lap, lasers. Big lasers. I like it. I like it a lot. They all do these things very, very, very well. If you order these differently from me, I'm personally not going to fight you too much. Where each of them has like a buff, you could maybe say, like for example, like the Wii one has like a Bowser statue that isn't as compelling. The music on this one, I would say, is my least favorite of the three, but it has some like really cool drifting and trick section. That's pretty neat. And then you get the Double Dash one, which I think atmosphere-wise definitely wins when it comes to the three. But I think there's maybe a few too many sections where you're not doing as much as I'd possibly like compared to the others. And this one like almost feels like a roller coaster with how fast you go. But I feel like with how fast you quickly go through each section, there isn't really enough time to really take it all in, I would say. So while it does do the spectacle factor very well, they don't really hold your breath on any one section. Like with the Bowser statue from this part, or the Firebar section, there isn't any section that really holds your attention too much in this Bowser Castle, which is why you could probably see a few points knocked down for that. So each of them, again, have their pros, they have their cons. So if you're going to rank them differently from me, I'm not going to argue with you, honestly. We all just like different. We all like going for different vibes, I would say. I think, just about loses because it doesn't have like the Bowser statue and the music, I think, are just not as good enough. Where I think it's the loser of the three, I would say. It's still very, very good. Just let's go for it. With his S tier tournament, let's go for it. And this one is really, really good. It's a really fantastic spectacle. It kind of like goes by a bit too fast for my liking, if you ask me. So I would put that there, and I'll put that there. That's my order, I would say. I'd say DD8 Wii. That's what I would say. All of them are fantastic tracks. Absolutely fantastic tracks to race on. And the pinnacles in their regular games. But if you're asking me right now, just by inches, that's the order I'm going with. What are your orders? Let's see your orders. Wii, GCN 8, 8DX, GCN Wii, GCL, hang on, Wii, 8, GCN. None of them compare to the absolute GOAT gamers that is SNES, BC3, 8 Deluxe, baby. Let's go. Now we've got the true GOAT of all Bowser Castles. We have got the Wii SNES. SNES wins, gamers. It wins with an absolute aplomb. It is the GOAT that's ever goated in my GOAT ever. It is the GOAT. It is bleating. It is bleating like the GOAT it is. Let's go. Oh, take your flowers, my absolute beauty. I've gone into insane detail as to what I absolutely adore about this track in my 96 track ranking review and in my Wave 6 review, but it bears quickly repeating again now. So, music-wise, hello, GOAT department? This is the pinnacle of obstacle course related Bowser Castles. And I just absolutely love every section of what this Bowser Castle tends to do. I love everything. I love everything this track does. It took the SNES version, which was already a fantastic track, modernized it so beautifully, and I love everything they did with this Bowser Castle. It's short, it's sweet, it's everything you want in an obstacle course related Bowser Castle. You get this opening section again, the pick a path section from Super Nintendo, but instead of having like a couple of different reasons as to why you'd want to take each path, like the items or maybe taking a wider turn, in this one they go quite simple. Hey, you could take the smallest path. There's a grate there. You might get hit by lava. You gotta be careful. And the thwomps here are just the perfect thing to sum up the genius of this track. After the thwomp section comes the split lane section, which has been redone so that you can ascend the pillars. In order to do that, you have to contend with these thwomps. They give you a bit of a choice in this one. Do you take the slower but safer path? That nets you some coins in the process. Obviously, they know that coins aren't enough to entice a casual player, but by taking the slower but safer path, it enables you to perfectly align yourself so you can ascend the pillars and grab that extra item that you want. Now, this still can be done if you take the sharpest, most inward turn, but you won't get as much time to align yourself, which causes you to fall off if you're not careful. And this is where you might consciously think, well, why not try the best of both worlds? I don't want to go as outwards as possible, but I want to go as inwards as possible. And that's where the thwomps come in. Just like in the original game, how sometimes the timing of the thwomps would have to be favorable to you. If you decide to take the middle drifting line, you also have to contend with that too. If the thwomps are up, then lucky you. You get to take a slightly more inwards racing line than going around the outside, and you get to ascend up top of the pillars. But if the thwomps are down, that's going to force you to drift maybe a bit wider or a bit more inward than you'd like, making it so you might not align yourself with the speed that you wanted. This is an absolute modernization of what is already a fantastic skeleton for a Bowser Castle. And I love everything about it. I love it. I love racing on this. I really do. Again, in this section, it's the thwomps going up. That's the threat, not the thwomps going down. So you have to keep your head on a swivel some more. If you're asking me, I can only pick one Bowser Castle to the end of time. I will be very sorry that I have to let these ones go. But I am always happy to play this one. I am always happy. So there you go, gamers. That is my list. That is my list of Bowser Castles. This is also S tier. This isn't like S plus or anything, just to clarify. They're all S tier. But if I had to separate the GOAT, it has to be SNES Bowser Castle 3. So we're in agreement, right? BC3, the best of the lot. If you disagree, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. And while you're doing that, I want to give a big thank you to all my channel members, the Musquire Knights you can see in the description, and the members of the Royal Guard and the Wizards you can see on the screen now. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And if you want to do so as well, be sure to join. It's very cheap. You get videos a little earlier and some exclusive off-the-cuff stuff that I'm going to start making soon. Trust me. I moved house. That's why I've not been doing much lately, if you couldn't tell. I've been moved house. Look, you see, so I'm not in my room anymore. I'm somewhere different. Where we've transcended upon the normal borders of the Musquire Kingdom. We have now gone to another place I like to call another part of London. And if you want to check out some more content, I got some more beautiful stuff there, gamers, so be sure to stick around. And until next time, there's your lot.